Hey Internet, it's Gunter with MiniMishaps Games, and today we're going to be talking about the peoples of the world in the new TTRPG that we're designing. If you tuned in for the last 4 videos, you know that we are working to create a series of videos so that people that want to create new games in the TTRPG space have resource and a community and a group of people that are building games alongside them. So we invite you to join us. The first video was more or less an announcement and an inspiring speech, a call to action for everybody to start building their own games. We talked a little bit about what would be needed for those games. The second video focused on choosing which traits or stats would be the main way that the characters were measured in the world. And so some of you have done those new traits for new systems. I picked out 10 that became the F.I.S.T.S and M.I.N.D.S. There's a whole video on that. And that was our third video. And the fourth video was we gave 45 classes, which were the pairings of the two traits that each of the classes give you. So our peoples work much in the same way that you choose a peoples. That gives you two traits when you're in character creation. In addition to the two traits, the peoples also have keywords. Those keywords and those kinds of effects and abilities will all be in a different video. Today we're focusing on the people abilities, or the species abilities, the racial abilities, the etc. from other systems. But these are, if you choose these people as your people, that gives you a couple of extra abilities. So we're going to go, they're in alphabetical order. There's 45 of them, so it's going to take us a little bit, but strap in and enjoy, and we will start right in. So our first peoples is Anguillian. An Anguillian is an eel-based person. There are several that are animalians, which are animal-based anthropomorphic animals. And just in general, most of the peoples are medium-sized, unless it says otherwise. But all of those kinds of characteristics, again, with the keywords, will be in another video. So we won't be focusing on which peoples are tall and which ones are small in this video. But for abilities, our Anguillian has an electric personality, and that ability lets them add the lightning keyword to their spells. And then they have slippery skin, which raises the difficulty for another character if they're trying to grapple the Anguillian, bind them, etc. Next we've got Aviari, and that also reminds me that another reason to do this video is because these names are designed to be standalone within this system. They aren't copywritten, they don't belong to anybody. They were invented by us, or they're generic enough that they aren't using any copywritten collection of letters. But a lot of them are based on other languages' words for things. So Aviari, Anguillian are both, I believe, from the Latin terms. But an aviary is, like it sounds, a bird person. And they have the of a feather ability, which means that they have the flying keyword. And feeling peckish is the other ability that refers to if they're using their beak, they can reduce the difficulty of breaking stuff in that ability. Next up, we have got Balkagi, which is a squirrel-based person, and Balkagi comes from Russian for squirrel, I believe. Their abilities are spring-loaded landing, which basically means they take much reduced fall damage, up to 30 feet. And then they have cheek trick, which allows them to store a hand-sized object in each cheek, but keep their hands free while doing so. Next we've got Bryophyte, and a Bryophyte is a plant-based person. They have leaves of life, and leaves of leeching, which essentially either make a little healing salve to return health points, or a poison to remove health points. Next up, we've got Bulldorc, and a Bulldorc is a bulldog-headed orc, an orc with a bulldog head, exactly like it sounds. So they're green or tan or orange, and then their head is shaped like a bulldog's head. They have kinetic culture, which means that they use strikes in their language, and they can use their impact instead of neuronics when it comes to taking the no action. Impact being the stat for damage, and neuronics being the stat for smarts. Nomadic storytelling is the other ability, and it functions as if their neuronics trait is one higher as long as there is another Bulldorc within 20 squares. So they have that kind of community language learning. Next, and kind of related, is the Canid. While the Bulldorc was specifically a certain kind of dog and a certain kind of orc, the Canid is pretty much any Animalian that is dog or wolf based. So it can be as varied as canines are. They have a keen sense of smell, which means that they choose a favored creature keyword, and that could be like dragon or beast or animal or undead. And then they can't be surprised by that creature, and it reduces the difficulty on the track or locate action for the chosen and keyword on the creature. They also have pack loyalty, which essentially, if an ally is within 1 square and hit by a weapon or single target spell, the Canid can step in and take half the damage from that attack or spell on themselves. Next up, we've got a Centaur, and this is, if you aren't familiar, a human torso growing out of a horse's shoulders. It sounds weird. If you have better ways of describing a Centaur to someone who's never seen or heard of one, please put that in the comments, because it's a human torso growing out of a horse's shoulders. They have equine stature, which means they have the large keyword, which is 2 sizes higher than medium. Again, we'll cover all that in a different video. We did that so that the carrying of creatures can happen more logically. So the Centaur is 2 sizes higher, which is why it can carry a medium creature if they choose to. And then their second ability is Galloping Accuracy, which means that the weapon attack and spell single target spell difficulties are reduced by 1 if they have already used a move action during that round, which means on their turn, they do a move action, they can use one of their later actions more easily to do a attack while they're running. We have got next the Cephaloid, and a Cephaloid is a cuttlefish person. Depending on how things happen in the Animalian writing of the world, it may also include octopus and squid, but for the time being it's just a cuttlefish. They have the abilities Ancestral Deep, which their difficulty is reduced on being targeted by the psychic keyword. And they have Face Tentacles, which means they can hold an additional item without using one of their hands. It is still a non-equipable space, so you can't put like a ring or a weapon and use it. But they can perform actions that use the skill trait. Cochleans are up next, and this is a snail person, and their abilities are they've got a stored storage store, which is the shell. Basically, they can put things in there. They can also hold 1 person or creature that has the medium keyword, and those things don't count against the lifting limits of the character, so they kind of have a semi-extra dimensional space that doesn't count against their weight limits. And then their second ability is Rolling Chitin, and if the shell is empty, the character can go inside it and essentially use it as a vehicle to roll around in the snail shell. Moving right along, we have got Crystalli, and a Crystalli person is a person that is made out of crystal. They have the abilities Refracted Magic, which means that they can change the magic keyword of a spell that originates within 3 squares of them. And Prism Lantern, which if they are the target of a spell or ability with the light keyword, they can emanate light equivalent to a torch for 24 hours, ending it at their will. Next we have Dark Elves, which have the underground keyword, but are technically in the lore of the world, not underground any longer. They moved above ground after the apocalypse, and now they're above ground communities and farmers and any other above ground city vocations. So they have the ability Above and Below, which means that anytime they learn a language or an underground language, they also gain the equivalent of the other. So if they learn Hinterblier, which is an underground Helpard, then they learn Helpard. If they learn Helpard, then they gain Hinterblier. And if you don't know a Helpard, we'll get to them in a second, is a hobbit or a halfling, or that's our version of a person with human proportions that is half the size of a normal person. But our second Dark Elf ability is Free of Spiders, and essentially since they got out from under the Spider God with the Psychic keyword, they now have a resistance to the Psychic keyword. The Drachiari are next, and this is our Draconic or Dragon-based person. They have the ability Ancestral Lung, and where this ability differs from some of the other common tabletop role-playing games is that this lung is adaptive, and they can learn different abilities to go with it from the dragons themselves that have the ability. But the damage amount and the size of the breath is set within that ability. They just can gain and change the keyword of what kind of magic that they're using. Second ability is Descendant of Dragons, which means they have the keyword dragon for the purpose of spells and abilities that would target dragons. Next we've got Dwarf, and our dwarves' abilities are Eye for Metal, which essentially means that break stuff and fine motor actions regarding metal are 1 less difficulty. And Stocky Stock, the ability says that with regards to being lifted, pushed, held, or transported, they count as a size higher. They do have the compact keyword, which is 1 less than the medium keyword. Most of the races or species or peoples that you're used to seeing as the smaller peoples are almost all of them are compact, unless they're really, really tiny. Pixies and fairies and those kinds are a lot smaller. But goblins, dwarves here, kobolds, gnomes, they all have the compact, which means 1 size lower than again, we'll talk about sizes in another video. Elefantin is next, and the Elefantin's abilities are a prehensile trunk, which means they can equip the trunk as if it were an extra hand slot, but using the trunk for actions has 1 more difficulty than a hand would for the same. And their second ability is that they've got big genes, which means they have the big keyword, which big is 1 size bigger than medium. So a big creature, the Elefantin, could not ride a Centaur because it's only 1 size difference. But it could carry a Dwarf because there's 2 size differences. Kind of. Sizes later. I'll get there. I'm just excited. I get excited about all this, and so it's all up here already. I just haven't got to get it to you guys in videos. We will have a video talking about sizes and keywords coming soon, probably coming next. Next up, we've got Fairy, and our Fairy abilities, big and little. Essentially, they can raise or lower the size keyword of another creature by 1, and that's temporary. Or Hive of the Fae, which that ability raises the difficulty for the Faeborn keyword characters, which includes fairies and pixies, as long as there's another Faeborn creature. So they're harder to hit as long as there's other Faeborn keyword creatures around. Alright, that is the first 15 of our 45 peoples. There will be another video soon with the next 2 sets of 15. There will be 2 new videos coming. But if you want to support us in what we're doing here, let us know about the games that you're building. And we have a Patreon. We have, obviously, the channel. Likes and subscribes are very helpful. But mostly we want you to go, make games, and have fun playing TTRPGs. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks, Internet.